Hi folks, Bill Wensloff with Morley here again, and today I want to cover some of the common questions that we get asked about our volume pedals. Specifically, where do you place the volume pedal in your signal chain when using other effects? So right here we have a very simple setup. We have a guitar plugged into our distortion boost, then from the distortion boost into our little Alligator volume pedal, and from little Alligator volume into the amplifier. So let's take a look and see how that sounds. So when setting up effects, in general, there's no hard rules. Effects can be placed in different positions. It just depends on the results you're trying to achieve. Now in this particular setup, we're running from the guitar into the distortion first, then from the distortion into the volume pedal. With this type of setup, I can lower and increase the volume without changing the overall characteristics of the distortion. I'll get the full distortion and the full sustain just at a lower volume as I'm increasing and decreasing the volume pedal. So let me give you an example. Here's a clean tone. Here's the distortion. And so as I hit the distortion, the overall distortion is maintained, and all you're doing is increasing and decreasing the volume overall. So let's take a look and see what happens when we reverse this and go into the volume first. So now I've got the guitar running into the volume pedal first, then from the volume into the distortion, and distortion onto the amplifier. In this setup, as I lower the volume, it will be lowering the pickup signal that's getting to the distortion, and it'll start to clean up. It's like the equivalent of rolling your volume knob on your guitar back. So here's the distortion. And as I roll the volume back, you'll notice that the distortion characteristic starts to go away. It starts to actually clean up. At about half volume, it's kind of a clean tone. It's because you're lowering the pickup signal that's getting to the distortion. And so it cleans up. Again, just like rolling the volume back on your guitar. And of course, when you go full volume again, you're back to full distortion. So it's a little bit of a difference whether you put the volume first in the chain, especially before distortions, or last in the chain. So where you put your volume pedal in your chain, there's really no right or wrong answer. Nothing will be hurt by placing it first, second, third, or last in your chain. You get different results. Putting the volume pedal first will decrease the signal from your pickup to other effects, changing the overall sound of those effects. If that's what you're trying to achieve, perfect. Putting the volume last will allow you to maintain all of your overall signals in all of your pedals, distortions, phasers, flangers, you name it, but simply increasing and decreasing the overall volume, but having the same tone get to your amplifier. So feel free to experiment, move the pedals around all kinds of different ways, and remember, what sounds good to you is right. One great feature of the Steve Vai Little Alligator volume pedal is that we have designed it to be used in the front input of your amplifier, as well as in the effects loop or send and return of your amplifier. The reason for doing that is if you use a volume pedal in the front input of your amplifier and you're using your amp for distortion, as you lower the volume of the volume pedal, it will clean up your distortion, much like rolling the volume knob on your guitar back. It cleans up the distortion. If you're using your amp distortion and you want the distortion characteristics to stay the same with the volume pedal, then that's when you plug the volume into the send and return with the effects loop of the amplifier. Then you can maintain the overall distortion and sustain of your distortion from your amplifier, but just use the volume pedal for overall volume. So let's give it a try and take a look. So in this setup, I basically have my guitar running directly into the little Alligator volume and straight into the input of the amplifier, just in the front input as you normally would any other effect. And I have the amp set for distortion. So with the volume all the way down, I get the full distortion. But as I roll the volume back, it will decrease the pickup signal going to the amplifier, and it'll clean up the distortion, much like using the volume knob on your guitar. So let me illustrate that. About halfway. Maybe a third of the way. It's actually getting really clean now. And when it's off, it's virtually no distortion. Of course, you can always go back to where you were. So using the volume pedal in the front input of your amplifier when using distortion from your amp will clean up the distortion almost like a rhythm and a lead tone when you're moving the pedal back and forth. If that's what you're trying to achieve, perfect. The alternative is to use it in the effects loop, so let's take a look at that. On many amplifiers, on the back panel, you'll find what's called an effects loop. In this particular amp, it's called a patch. Normally, an effects loop would have a send and return. On this particular amp, it's labeled preamp out and power amp in. So the preamp out, or what would be a send, goes to the input of your pedal, and the power amp in, or what would be a return, is connecting to the output of your volume pedal. Okay, so with this setup, basically I have the volume pedal patched into the send and return on the back of the amplifier. The guitar is plugged directly to the front input of the amplifier. So there's an uninterrupted signal going to the amplifier with the volume pedal patched into the send and return, or the effects loop. The reason for doing that would be is if you want to maintain your amp's distortion characteristics even though you're changing the volume overall. So we have the distortion set up. Now as I lower the volume pedal to about halfway, or anywhere in between, you hear there's still a distortion characteristic that's still there. And the volume pedal is merely changing the overall volume. So by patching in the volume pedal into your effects loop, you can maintain all your distortion quality and sustain, and the volume pedal simply becomes for overall volume control. The Steve I Little Alligator volume has a feature called a minimum volume. Now, minimum volumes aren't found on all volume pedals, so it probably takes a little explanation. So the minimum volume knob, its purpose is to allow you to set two distinct volumes, one for rhythm and one for lead. And let me show you how to do that. First, you set your amplifier for full lead volume. Then put the volume pedal in the toe up position, which is off. There's no volume. Then you dial in the minimum volume until you find a suitable rhythm volume. And then for lead, you just simply go all the way toe down. Toe up, rhythm. Toe down, lead. So with the two distinct volume modes, you can have a little louder for solos and a little quieter for rhythm. And when you want to go back to regular volume mode, you just turn that to minimum volume all the way counterclockwise, and you're back to regular volume. So there you have it, the minimum volume control, pretty basic feature, but a very handy one so that you can use the pedal for two distinct jobs, either a rhythm lead pedal or for a standard volume control pedal. Either way, the Steve I Little Alligator volume pedal, an essential tool for anyone's pedal board.